Hello, I'm Alan Critchley, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Linda. I wrote a Safeguarding Adult review about Linda, so just a short video about my findings and about Linda. She was 58 when she died, and she'd fallen downstairs. She had a long history of alcohol dependency and had suffered from mental and physical ill health. She'd been known to a number of agencies, and it was thought that more could have been done via a coordinated multi-agency work approach to protect her. In particular, she was known as somebody with care and support needs who'd self-neglected and/or failed to care for herself. Prior to the fatal fall in May 2022, Linda had suffered 3 or possibly 4 similar falls on her stairs, all of which had led to injury. She'd had other falls as well and was known to be at risk of falling. Her daughter speculated that Linda might die in the way that she did. And her daughter also told me that she thought her mum had been alcohol dependent for a very long time, but that in the main she'd been able to hide it from friends, family, and from her work. By the time of her death, Linda was in contact with her parents and her younger daughter, but she was estranged from the rest of the family, including 2 older children. She'd been supported by the alcohol support agency Change Grow Live from 2017 until just before her death, and it was she that dropped contact with them. Linda's drinking escalated in 2021, and the times that agencies were involved with her became more frequent. In April 2021, the situation for Linda had deteriorated further. Her daughter was in touch with agencies saying that her mum was at significant risk of harm, that she'd fallen downstairs and that she was wandering the streets at night and day. As a result of an apparently psychotic episode, Linda was taken to hospital in that April and briefly detained. But there was a good plan of support from mental health services and Change Grow Live, and good practice was that a primary care multidisciplinary team meeting was held. During that period, Linda herself was asking for inpatient detoxification. This provision is available in Kent, but it's a scarce resource. So Linda was asking for it, but she was also saying that she was concerned about who would look after the dog while she was in detox. She also was known to have a history of not keeping appointments, and it was thought that Linda's commitment to detoxification program was insufficient for her to be given a place. After that, she didn't keep appointments with her mental health worker, and her contact with them was closed in July 21. In the same month, Linda fell from the top to the bottom of her stairs. The ambulance service suspected a head injury and wanted to take her to hospital. Linda refused to go, and the ambulance service believed that she had capacity to refuse. A similar fall happened a week later. On this occasion, Linda was taken to hospital. While scans were clear, she was advised to stay in hospital due to low potassium and low sodium. Both were potentially serious, but Linda wanted to go home. She was said to have capacity to make the decision, and she did return home. As a result of the admission, the ambulance service raised a vulnerable adult alert and sent this to adult social care. Over the next months, the pattern continued with the addition of potential suicidal ideation. At the end of August 21, the decision had been made to call a professionals meeting to include the GP, social care and Change Grow Live, and that would have been helpful to discuss self-neglect. In fact, for various reasons, this meeting hadn't taken place by the time of Linda's death and had been postponed and cancelled on a few occasions. And that's a key finding, that it would be really helpful if professionals meetings, when they're needed, did go ahead. Home visits over the months before Linda's death showed her to be at continuing risk of self-neglect. There were times where Linda was positive and persuaded others that she was determined to reduce or give up alcohol. With hindsight, this was optimistic given Linda's long history of alcohol dependency, and it was also clear with hindsight that Linda was presenting herself in as good a light as she could and only seeing professional workers when she felt positive enough to do so. Towards the end of her life, Linda admitted to her social worker that she just didn't answer the door unless she felt strong enough. This led to a useful but late discussion about the need for Linda to be honest if she was to receive help. That this conversation took place is a credit to the social worker who had built up a good relationship with Linda and had been trusted by Linda in her last weeks. However, on the 19th of May 2022, Linda was found dead, having fallen down her stairs. Now, my recommendations were, number one, safety. The previous falls down the stairs were an indicator of risk. Social care and health agencies should ensure that past risk informs current assessment and that mitigations to risk are included in all relevant assessments. My second recommendation, professional and multi-agency meetings. The primary care network meeting guidance should include reference to the escalation procedures to ensure that if a meeting fails to take place due to inadequate attendance, that it's rearranged and that it's rearranged at the first possible opportunity. Another recommendation, capacity and legal literacy, that Kent and Medway Safeguarding Adult Board to ensure that the findings from this review are linked to relevant findings from other reviews in the work taken forward in respect of capacity and legal literacy, thinking particularly there that because Linda had problems with alcohol, that her capacity and her executive function may have been influenced by the alcohol. And my final recommendation about self-neglect, that Kent and Medway Safeguarding Adult Board should use the findings from this review to remind practitioners that self-neglect can be hidden. It's not always linked to hoarding and not always easy to identify. But in this instance, Linda, although she'd been putting a brave face on things, was self-neglecting. Anyway, my thanks for listening, and as ever, when doing safeguarding adult reviews, the hope is that something good comes from a tragedy and from a death.